Hey everybody, how's it going? We're back with our best bets for week 5. I'm grinning from ear to ear because we had a great week 4 in terms of betting. We were the closest we've ever been to a clean sweep in the card, a half point away in that Chiefs-Jets game from a clean sweep. In retrospect, should have bought half a point to protect myself from, these lines are so accurate and precise that I should have known I was going to lose on the hook, but our lock hit again, put 2 units on that, and everything else looked pretty good too. So looking to keep this momentum going in week 5. As always, like the video if you're using this for any purpose and we're helping you out a little bit, help us back out. Comment in the comment section what you're picking, what you like this week, and subscribe to the channel to keep getting this content week in and week out. First game I want to talk about is the Falcons hosting the Texans, who have really surprised people this year. CJ Stroud, especially a quarterback, has turned some heads. One of the greatest starts ever for a rookie quarterback, and that is no exaggeration in terms of the yardage, touchdowns, and lack of interceptions that he's been throwing is very much unprecedented outside a handful of Hall of Fame quarterbacks. Now, that doesn't mean that Stroud necessarily is himself, but he's playing like one as a rookie so far in terms of what other Hall of Fame rookies have done. Aside from CJ Stroud, the Falcons have not looked too good this season in terms of offense, especially. Still not able to get the ball to their top 5 pick, Kyle Pitts at tight end, and Bijan Robinson is as advertised, though, at running back behind that great offensive line. This line started, I think, at Falcons -3, and the public has since jumped on the Texans. And that makes sense given how good the Texans have looked, how much they've surprised people, especially last week against the Steelers. And the Falcons had a pretty big dud against the Jaguars in London last week, letting the Jags defense even get a touchdown that game. You can see this total is 41.5, which is surprising to me given the offensive output the Texans have had. To me, that makes me think that the odds makers in Vegas think the Falcons are going to be able to hold the Texans offense in check. And if the Texans offense is held in check with how good this Falcons rush offense is, I think that is an opportunity for the Falcons here to get back in another win in the column and try to get back in this NFC South playoff race. I was looking at Pro Football Focus's run defense, and it just so happens that the Texans have the bottom worst ranked run defense in the NFL by a wide margin. That's really going to play into the Falcons' favor here, as if you've watched their offense at all this season, you know it's heavily predicated on the run, and that's how they want to win their games. Falcons a top 5 rushing graded offense in football behind the 2-headed monster of Bijan Robinson that I mentioned, but also Tyler Algier as the other running back who rushed for 1,000 yards last season. So a lot of talent, at least in the run game in that offensive line for the Falcons against a very poor defensive run-stopping unit in the Texans. I think this is a prime game for the Falcons to bounce back and get a win. I love how the public is jumping back on the Texans because it's making this money line cheaper and cheaper. So I think -120 for the Falcons is where I want to end up here. I think they run the ball a lot and defeat the Texans that way. Also, bold prediction, I think CJ Stroud throws his first interception this game. And if I'm really going to get bold, I think it's going to be Jesse Bates at safety that picks him off. Another game here that I want to talk about was sticking in the London game. The Jaguars, second straight London game, playing the Bills this time. Bills jump out to a large favorite at 5.5 points, especially after their rout of the media Super Bowl team with the Miami Dolphins last week at home. Traveling all the way to England certainly is not easy on the body or the circadian rhythm, helping these guys try to fight some drowsiness. The Jaguars are already acclimated to the time shift, and that probably will help them a little bit. But I don't think it's going to help the Jaguars enough, as I think the Bills really are one of the best teams in the NFL. Certainly so far the best team in the AFC East, or the AFC in general, in my opinion. I don't want to touch the spread in this game because I do think the Jags have some firepower on offense and defense as well. But they just certainly have not been living up to their potential this year. I think the Jags compete in this game, and I think the Bills end up winning ultimately. Again, they're a much better team. I think they're going to be too much and overpower the Jaguars. However, I do like the under in this game. You saw that the Bills defense was really able to hold Miami, who's been putting up 70 points some games, to less than 30, which is a big deal. And prior to that, held all the other teams they faced through weeks 1 through 3 under 20 points. Certainly, this defensive unit is very good. Looking at 8th best ranked overall defensive unit by Pro Football Focus. So I think they can hold this Jaguars offense down. I also think the Jaguars defense comes to play a little bit more ready, and perhaps the sluggishness of the time shifts hurts the Bills. That will drive the under, in my opinion. So I'm liking this under 48.5. I'm also looking for Josh Allen of the Jaguars to win the Josh Allen Bowl yet again and get a sack on Josh Allen of the Bills this game, furthermore helping the under. The next game we wanted to talk about would be the Patriots hosting the Saints here in Foxborough. Saints started out this game as an underdog, and the public has since piled onto them, making them the favorite here. You see the total is very low, just about as low as that Saints-Bucks game last week that we hammered the under on and won. I'm very tempted to do that again, but I'm staying away from it this time, at least on this card. What I do like here in the situation is a very low total in a situation to take a home dog in a close game and tease them up to a touchdown underdog here. I think this is going to be a close game, as the spread implies, between two teams that struggle a lot on offense, especially right now with both teams last week, but especially with the Saints right now with their starting quarterback, Derek Carr, playing hurt. It's the difference between being hurt and injured, and Derek Carr is certainly the former, still going out there able to play, but not being all that productive. I'm not buying too much into the Patriots only scoring 3 points against the Cowboys last week. That's basically what I expected to happen. This Saints defense, while it's good, it's nowhere near as good as that Cowboys defense, especially and just from a holistic sense. I am saying that the Saints are the 5th highest rated defense by Pro Football Focus, so I put a lot of stock into that. The Patriots are no slouches themselves, and they're getting J.C. Jackson back at corner, as I just got him from the Chargers. I think him having a Pro Bowl season with the Patriots, he'll be able to plug right back in this defense and pick up a lot of the slack they're missing at cornerback, and really not miss a beat too much and help this Patriots defense further shut down what has been a slow Saints passing attack. Long story short, 2 bad offenses, 2 pretty solid defenses. Patriots at home. I think it's going to be a very low scoring game. I think the Patriots could win this game outright, but I really think this is a great spot for a teaser that I'm going to pair with the next game that we talk about, which would be the Eagles heading to LA to play the Rams. I think, in my opinion, the Eagles, as a 4-0 team, have not impressed me as much as you think a 4-0 team would think the 49ers and how great they've looked this year. And the Rams have impressed me as a 2-2 team. Hopefully getting Cooper Kupp back here too. I've been impressed in what I saw, especially in the offense output, with guys like Tutu Atwell and Ricky Puka Nacua really helping out. Kyron Williams too would seem to be the answer at running back in LA. And with the insertion of Cooper Kupp to this offense, you could really see some sparks fly here for the Rams in Week 5. You see this total is implying a lot of points here. That's because both offenses are very potent and have stars all around. I think, given the way the Eagles looked, traveling all across the country to LA, playing in a different time zone than normal, and looking sluggish, but also going up against a tough and hard-nosed Washington defense in overtime, they're going to be a little sluggish this game, and I really like the Rams here to cover plus 4.5. I have the box on the under. It's on plus 4, and I'm going to tease that to plus 10. I just think, the Rams right here, they are the 11th best team by Pro Football Focus. They looked really good. That's without Cooper Kupp. You get him back and healthy. I think they make this game close against the Eagles, who, again, a lot taken out of them with that overtime win against the Commanders. You don't think that matters? Just take a look about how the Commanders came out in the first half against the Bears. Very sluggish. I think maybe overlooking the Bears a little bit, but certainly on a short week feeling that overtime, those extra snaps, I think the same situation, but maybe to a lesser degree, will come with the Eagles this game. A couple more games I wanted to talk about here and pair together in another bet. The first one being the Bengals heading to Glendale, Arizona, and taking on the Cardinals. Both these teams 1-3 in this season, but very much different stories here. Bengals, obviously one of the Super Bowl favorites coming into this season, have really struggled, especially offensively, behind a down-and-out offensive line and a hobbled quarterback in Joe Burrow. The Cardinals, who have been the underdogs in every game this season and will continue to be for the rest of the season unless anything changes, have competed in a lot of football games and even being one of the best teams in football in the Dallas Cowboys. This line opened at -4.5 for the Bengals and has since moved to -3 as the public has been jumping all over the Cardinals, and rightfully so given the way they've looked and competed this game. However, I think this is a game where you throw out the record books, you throw out the stats, you even throw out what you've seen in the first 4 weeks of the season, and you bet on the better quarterback in the game, and you bet on one of the best quarterbacks in the league to get back on track and put his team in a position where they can still make the playoffs. I think if the Bengals lose this game and Joe Burrow doesn't have an iconic performance like we've known him to do, then they're just about out in the playoffs. It's extremely tough, especially given how strong their division is to make the playoffs at 1-4. I think this is a must-win game for the Bengals. I think this is the one where they pull it out despite how bad they've looked all year. I think the most important thing to note here in this bet is, T. Higgins is obviously out and having that injury, but the Cardinals have the 3rd worst coverage defense in all of football. Look for Joe Burrow to be hitting up Jamar Chase and for them both to have monster games en route to a Bengals win. I don't know, given the way their defense has played in Cincinnati, if this is going to be a close game or not, but I know the Bengals are going to put up enough points to win this one. We'll just have to see if the Cardinals come out and play as well. Final game here to talk about is the Packers on, I believe, Monday night, heading to Vegas and playing the Raiders here. I know this line opened with Packers being the favorite and has since line movement gone towards the Raiders. I know in the last game the line movement went to the Cardinals. I ended up fading that and picking the Bengals. In this situation, I'm jumping on the bandwagon with the line movement and taking the Raiders here to win. And this one doesn't have a lot of analysis like the other one does. I think the Packers and the Raiders are very similarly matched up in a lot of different ways. But the big difference here is that the Raiders have Davante Adams and the Packers still don't have a go-to wide receiver yet that's emerged. Certainly not in the same caliber as Davante Adams. I think the Packers defense has surprised me of how not dominant. It hasn't been a bad defense this year, but it's not been as great as I would have liked, and part of that is due to Jair Alexander's absence. And I'm so a little bit surprised of how formidable the Raiders defense has been. It's not been anything to write home about, but they're a middle 10 defense in the league, which is better than I thought they'd be coming into the season. I think the Raiders were all around average, but again, that X factor with Davante Adams, if Jimmy Garoppolo is playing, I think at home under the lights will be enough for the Raiders to win this game. And with that, that'll round out the card. And we'll take a look. I really like, again, the Falcons' money line here to bounce back and run the ball all over a very poor rush defense in the Texans. Bills, Jags under here is really about a couple things. Bills having one of the more dominant defenses in the NFL, especially in terms of points per game allowed. That's going to be tough for the Jags to muster up any points. And then I think Jags defense got to step up here like they did against the Falcons. But you're not going to be able to limit the Bills to the point that you limit the Falcons. But I think with the time change and the travel across the pond, it's going to hurt the Bills a little bit for this under to be great. This Pats-Rams is the lock. I'm only putting one unit on it because I'm not as confident as I was in the lock last week. But the Pats +7 at home in a very low-scoring game seems to be advantageous. And the Rams +10. I think the Rams are going to win this game, quite honestly, and beat the Eagles. So that's not the part of the bet I'm worried about. I'm certainly more worried about the Patriots and hoping they can muster up enough points to keep it close enough. But the Rams here, with Cooper Kupp coming back, facing a struggling Eagles team despite being 4-0, that's traveling across the country, I like the spot that the Rams are in. Finally, a couple money line favorite parlays here at +200, only putting a half unit on it. Definitely not one of the smartest bets this channel has ever recommended, and certainly one of the longest odds we've recommended, but I like this one. I think these are 2 wins for 2 teams that haven't been playing that great this season, but I think they're in favorable situations here. And that's all for the video this week, everybody. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you maybe learn something. Maybe you take our bets. Maybe you don't. But all that matters, I see you again in week 6.